So, welcome to episode 2 of Stories from Wonderland. And Stories from Wonderland is a travel series where I share interesting, unforgettable life moments that I've had while traveling solo on the road and living abroad. So I've lived in four countries. And I've traveled solo to over a dozen countries so far. And so this topic is about how I moved to France, which is my first long-term solo trip that I've ever taken. Alright, so how the format is gonna go is I'm gonna spend like the first 10 minutes, I'll tell you about my travel story, and then it will be your turn to chat with me. You can share the live with me to talk about if you have like questions or if you want to share a solo travel, a similar travel story that you have as well. Okay, so how I moved to France. Alright, so I moved to France in 2009, so that's what, 11 years ago? And I lived 5.5 years in France. So of course I speak fluent French. Maybe later on I'll let you hear some French. But I speak fluent French, and I lived in the south of France in Toulouse for most of those 5 years. Maybe 3.5 of the 5.5 years, so most of it was in the south of France in Toulouse. 2 days before I'm to arrive, literally 2 days before I'm to arrive in France, I got an email, a nice little email that said, "Bonjour Didri, comment ça va? Hi Didri, how are you? Just letting you know that you won't be able to stay with us. I'm so sorry, and the reason is it's just a small bed, and I think like maybe you wouldn't be comfortable." And I was like, "What? Comfort? I will sleep on the floor." You're telling me that I can't stay at the house because you're worried about my comfort level in a country where I don't speak the language and I know absolutely no one. I barely even know you. Like, what's going on? Wait. What? Hold on. How you arrived to France? Like, how did I arrive to France? Yeah, that's what happened, but we're gonna start from the top and I'm gonna tell you all the tea. So, 2009, moving to France. How did I decide to even move to France? Well, first of all, I was bored AF at my job. I felt like my brain cells were just dying, and I ended up, it was not fulfilling. So I liked the people that I worked with, but the job itself was not interesting. And I was like, oh God, I cannot take another year of this. I need to leave. But then there was the financial crisis. 2008, when everything, the dot-com bubble popped. What was that? I think it was the dot-com. Yeah, I think it was that, but there was a financial crisis. And so also leaving my job was it wasn't like ideal, right? And it's not like I could I can't find another job easily anyways, because there was like a financial crisis, kind of like how there's quarantine and COVID and all the things right now. So anyways, I was like, okay, what can I do? I cannot stay in this job anymore. Because I was so bored in my job, I had actually started taking French classes. I had already done that in high school. So I knew some French, but I was just like, okay, I need to do something to keep my mind active, keep it going, because I cannot deal with this boredom. And when I was deciding, okay, how do I really need to leave this job because it's not fulfilling, I was like, yo, maybe I could move abroad. I've been always wanting to do that. I had a friend, a Swedish friend, an exchange student who came to high school. Shout out for all those girls. We went to high school together and we became friends, and she told me about study abroad in Sweden and how, in Scandinavia, study abroad is free for everyone. And I was like, yeah, but don't you have to pay international fees or whatever? And she was like, no, because education is a right for everybody, and it doesn't matter if you're non-Swedish or not. Hey David! And so I was like, so when I decided to leave my job and I'm gonna go abroad, I was like, oh, let me check that out. And when I checked out moving to Sweden to study abroad, yes, tuition was free, but living there, I could not afford it, right? And then, so I was just like, okay, disappointment. I'm going to be stuck here in my job. I can't move abroad. Anyways, research, thinking. And then at my French course, my French class, I, at the very last minute, found out that I could apply to be an English teaching assistant. I was like, oh, this is it. I speak English, I can do this, I speak some French, I'm gonna go. And but then when I saw the deadline, it was like, you have 4 days to do this long laundry list of things in order to meet the deadline. And so I had to like get references from like my high school French teacher, and just like a whole long list. I had to write a motivation letter. It was like it was a hardcore application process, and I had 4 days to do it, right? And so I was like, yo, I am leaving. I have to do it. I cannot stay in this job anymore. And so I was like, how do I do it? So all this time, my parents don't know anything. Nobody don't know anything. And I was like, I have 3 days to do this. So while I was at work, and the job that I had, I couldn't really use the phone when I was there. No, it's not a call center, but I couldn't use the phone while I was on the job. I was just like bending down under my desk, calling. I like call my French teacher and be like, bonjour, madame. Can you help me? I need a reference. And she was like, wow, I haven't heard from you in so long. And I was like, yeah. So here's the thing. I'm trying to be a teaching assistant abroad, and I need, a reference. But I need it tomorrow. She's like, what? Tomorrow? I was like, yeah. If you want, I'll write it. And, just give you some pointers to remind you of who I am. And I will come pick it up at your house, at school, wherever you need it. I will be there to pick it up. And she was like, whoa, slow down. You don't need to do all of that. And I fully remember you were like, I did French from first form to fifth form. So 5 years of French. And the French classes were always like, 10 people, 15 people in the class. She's like, the classes were small. I know who you are, And I was like, yeah, but it's been so long. So I was like, well, are you able to do it? And she's like, well, I won't be able to give it to you tomorrow, but what about very early the next day? I was like, okay, well, I have 4 days and I already called. Oh, okay, cool. I will pick it up. And then I had to go to so that's one thing checked off, because I was like, all right, I have my reference down. Now I need to get my transcripts, because they want transcripts from like your high school and all things. And I had to like call, you must do good in school, and make friends. Anyways, I had made friends with the principal and kept in touch with her. And I also called and I was like, hi, Mrs. Principal, please, I'm begging you, I need a transcript. She's like, Deidre, this is not you can't just call me for a transcript. I was like, yes, I know. So, but the thing is, I need a transcript tomorrow. Are you able to like do something and help me out? Like put a little like personal note on it. And she's like, Deidre. I was like, yeah, but I'm just going to, it's for a job and university, and I do all the hard luck story. This was on the first day. This time I was still under my desk calling people, looking out for the supervisor, hi, to see. Everybody around me was like, what is this crazy girl doing? Anyways, first day down, I got some of the main things that I needed, and then I was like, okay, but now I really need to I need time to go and pick up things and do delivery and pick up the reference letters and drop off this and do that. I also had to get a medical and all the things. And I was like, okay, so I was at home. I need 3 days off. How do I get 3 days off? Google, do not do this. But I Googled a whole bunch of what are credible things I can say. And so I lied. And I called in sick. And I also had to lie to, have some symptoms, because I needed a doctor's note if I wanted 3 days off. But I didn't feel comfortable. I'm like, you know what, karma is a bitch. Let's not play around with being sick, right? Let's not do that. So it's like, you know what? So instead of having the 3 days off where you definitely need the doctor's advice, I'm like, okay, let's just do 2 days off. 2 days. So I just decided while I was calling in sick that, I'm just gonna do the 2 days so I could skip actually going to the doctor. And so I lied and I called in sick because my ass needed to just go abroad, and that's what I had to do. So that's what I did. And so while I was doing all the delivery and doing all the things that I needed for the application, all the places that I needed to like drop things off, pick things up, go on appointments were like all around my workplace. So I was just like ducking everywhere, driving. I actually saw my manager drive past at one point, and I had to be like, okay, she's not gonna see me. At the steering wheel, she's like, no, she can't see me. Lots of ducking, hide and seek in that whole process, right? Long and short, I made it. I made the application after doing a whole bunch of scheming. I finally made the application, went to the interviews, got accepted, and so that was like, and I got accepted, right? But the wait time, which is very similar to how things in France work. Everything takes 3 weeks to 3 months. That's just it. That's a time period. Forget about it. That's just what's gonna happen. So let's say I did the application in January. I would not find out if I got accepted or not until like about March, April. So I had 3 or so months of just like biting my fingers, waiting, hoping. Couldn't tell anyone. Job killing me. Just couldn't tell anyone because I didn't know what was going on, right? And then finally in like April or so, March, April, that's when you find out if you've been accepted. But you don't know where in France you're gonna go at this time. You just know you have been accepted and they're doing the next step of processing. You find out that in about July or so, that's when you find out where in France you're gonna go. And you're supposed to get to France by like the end of September, because work starts the beginning of October usually. So where are we? We're in April, and I finally find out, and then I had to wait 3 more months, and then in July is when, oh, you're gonna go to Toulouse. You're gonna go to the south of France, Toulouse. You're gonna go to this school. But the schools are all closed because it's holiday, trust me. In France, in July and in August, things go dead. They're just like, well, yeah, maybe like another week or so before everybody goes off on vacation, and you need to like make contact and find a house, meet, talk to people, make contact with the school, talk to the teachers, find somewhere to live. I'll do that before, August comes, because nobody will answer you, and then in September they're gonna come back and they're gonna be really busy, and then by the end of September you need to be in France, I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, so that happened. Needless to say, I was not able to get a house by July, because I also didn't really know. They give you some guidelines about like cost of living and that sort of thing, but it's not the same thing. Anyways, in July, that's when I was like telling my parents, I'm like, so Daddy, I'm moving to France and I'm moving in 2 months. I'm gonna move. He's like, what? You're moving to France? What do you mean you're moving to France? I'm like, I'm moving to France and I'm leaving in two months, and I'll be back like maybe in 3 years. He's like, okay, I'll talk to you later. So he did not process this until like maybe 3 days later, and then he sat down. He's like, what do you mean? And then I had to I couldn't tell my parents anything because the way my parents work is you have to know where you're going, what you're doing, when you're doing it, who you're doing it with, where you're going there, where the money come from, who picking you up, blah blah blah. You have to have all the information. Just like if I want to go to the store, right? I have to lay out all of these things. If I want to go I just have to lay out these things. So imagine telling them I'm going to a whole country. Yeah. But I didn't have any of this information, right? I just well, I have a job, so that's good. So that happened. So where are we? When I moved to France, I had to apply for English teaching assistant process, and I had 4 days to finish this very long application process. I lied and schemed my way and pretended I was sick in order to get off work. And then what else did I do? I also had to wait about 7 months in order to get my official announcement that I was moving, and that I was accepted into the program. And that's when, only 2 months before I would actually leave to go live in France for 5.5 years, was when I was able to tell everyone. Next part of this story. So, T3, you're moving to France. Hey! I'm feeling like amazing, right? And then I was like, oh crap, I need to pack and I need to do all the things. So these are like some of the things that happen like when you're trying to move abroad. And you can tell me if that happened to you. It's all of a sudden you realize like you have all of these things and you just get this huge overwhelm, and you realize how am I going to get rid of all of the things that I have? Because I was planning to just like leave, right? Well, I was leaving. I had a job. It was for a year. It was for up to 2 years, and I had to like Marie Kondo my belongings, and then trying to figure out how am I going to pack for like different climates, right? Because like money low, it's not like I have like a bunch of money. I just take up myself and decide I'm going to France. And rent at that time, well, they said you needed at minimum to have about 1,500 euros per month, and it would be better if you have like the 1 to 2 months of that money saved. Yeah, my ass went to France with like 800 euros, 700 euros, something like this, because I could not afford it. I did save the 1,500 euros, but some of that plane ticket had to come out of that. 1,500 euros. At that time, it would have probably been about 200,000 Jamaican. But using it in today's value or in today's terms, it would be probably the equivalent of me trying to find maybe $300,000 to $400,000 in order to leave. And yeah, let's say I left with like $180,000. Anyways, so moved to France, and it's now trying to figure out, well, trying to pack, right? And you have to pack for like different weathers and different climate situations, because Jamaica has no seasons, right? In Caribbean, it's just rain, dry, hot, rain. That's it. But you know, France has, you know, winter. They have the 4 seasons. They have winter, spring, summer, fall, right? Good thing is that I had already experienced winter, so I already had some winter clothes and some cold things. So that was okay. But so I moved, and I decided I was going to stop over in London to visit my cousin before I went my final stop to Toulouse in the south of France. And I was supposed to stay with one of the teachers for like the first 2 weeks to get myself organized, and also to go around to find apartments and find places to stay, because it's better when moving abroad. It's unless like your company or you know, your job that you have, or you have somebody there to like really find a place for you, it's a lot easier to just go there and try to find apartments. Luckily now we have Airbnb, where you can like, maybe you can save and book for like a month, and so you know where you're staying in like a month. But when I was leaving in 2009, there was none of that, or I didn't know about that, and so I had to just kind of like wing it. So I was supposed to stay with one of the teachers for the first 2 weeks and then figure it out. We had some appointments to, you know, visit apartments and that sort of thing lined up, so I felt okay. 2 days before I'm to arrive, literally 2 days before I'm to arrive in France, I got an email, a nice little email that said, "Hey, bonjour Deidre, comment ça va? You know, hi Deidre, how are you? Just letting you know that you won't be able to stay with us. I'm so sorry, and you know, the reason is it's just a small bed, and I think like maybe you wouldn't be comfortable." And I was like, "What? Comfort? I will sleep on the floor." You're telling me that I can't stay at the house because you're worried about my comfort level in a country where I don't speak the language and I know absolutely no one. I barely even know you. Like, what's going on? What do you do when you find out that, you know, you've lost your home? You lost the place you're going to stay 2 days, 48 hours before you arrive in a foreign country. Well, for me, I decided that I was just going to go to the park. So I was just like, so I told my cousin, I was like, let's just go out, because clearly Deidre just avoids things, right? So I avoided it for several hours, when I came back, you know, I was just like, when I come back, let's just drink some beers and I'll figure it out later. So I got back, and luckily there was an American who was already working at my school as an English teaching assistant, and she just like, you know, they just told her, hey, there's a Jamaican, another English teaching assistant that's coming, and she's coming on XYZ day, and so, you know, it would be nice if we could like help her, show her around, that sort of thing. So for me, when I came back after I got the, oh hey, you're homeless, you know, that notification, that email, you have no place to stay. When I come back, I actually got another email, and I was so stressed. I was like, what more is gonna happen about this thing? And it was the American, and she was like, hey DJ, just checking in, I know you're coming soon, so just saying hi. And she offered to meet me at the metro station. So after I get to the airport, I'd have to take the metro is the subway. I had to take the metro to get into town, and so she would meet me there. So she gave me like directions, like it's pretty simple, and it really was simple to just from the airport to hop on the metro and get into town, and she'd meet me there. So so I was like, well, would you also have a place for me to stay? Would that be great? Can I also stay with you? And then some hours passed in the email, and there was just like nothing, and I was like, oh crap. Yes, Candice, you're late. We're talking. Oh crap, what's happening? And so right now, I finally waited my 7 months to get my approval, right, to go to France to be an English teaching assistant. And 2 days before I get to France, I find out that I would be homeless. I already just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna go outside. I'm not gonna deal with this right now. I'm just gonna have some drinks. I'll figure it out later. And then when I come back, I got this wonderful email that said, you know, hey, I would meet you. I'll come pick you up from a new person, from another contact that I had in France. And so I decided I'm just gonna risk it. I'm just gonna ask if I could stay with this person who I just really kind of met. And after I sent that email, there was just like radio silence. Do you know how stressed out I was after this radio silence? I was so stressed. I was like, okay. And then my cousin was like, well, maybe you should like go back home. I was like, go back home? Wait a minute, I'm not going back home, right? I only have one more plane trip to take to get my ass into France. I'm going. I'm not turning back. I already paid for this ticket. I'm going to be homeless in this country. That was my, you know, mental state. And so I had started like looking up hotels for where I was. At that time, I didn't know about hostels, which are cheaper versions of hotels, right? Way cheaper. They share rooms with people. You know, it's a shared social accommodation, but I didn't know about hostels. And so I only knew about hotels, right? And like villas and stuff. And this was like expensive. I only had 700 euros to make it in a month to live in France, in Toulouse, right? And the minimum cost of living at that time was like 1,500 euros. And I'm like, I'll do it. I'll be able to make, I can live on $700 euros for the month. I had money for rent, but it was just like 700 euros. And anyways, when I looked, I could not afford to live in hotels for like 2 weeks. All the 700 euros would be gone. Radio silence, me stressing. The day comes for me to, you know, fly. I had an afternoon flight, so that was good. To fly to France, and I still had no response yet about where I'm gonna be staying. Finally, so my cousin was like, are you really doing this? I'm like, yes, I'm really doing this. I'm packing my bags. I'm going. Finally, at the end, just before I was like, I did, okay, last check on my email, last check to see what's going on. I did the last check, and the American came to my rescue, and she said, well, you can stay in my house for about 4 days because I'm actually moving out, and they're coming to check the apartment, and so you can say, I can put you up for 4 days. I'm like, yes, I'll take it. So it's 4 days, and in those 4 days, so that was just before I was like about to board my plane. That's when I got like, just before I was about to like head to the airport, etc., etc. I was like, let me do a last check, and that's how that's my arrival to France. My arrival to France was homelessness. I only had a place to stay for 4 days, and I had to figure out everything afterwards. So, what is it like moving to a new country where you don't speak the language, you don't know anyone, you don't have like your support system close by, and you also have like that burden of you need to figure out where to go and where to live. It's stressful. That's what it's like. So one of the first things that I remember, in those 4 days, actually, I ended up, the American, she was like the other English teaching assistant, she really helped me, and she really shared her network and her connections, and I was able to find stay at a dorm in a school for like the first month or so, maybe the first 2 months. I think I stayed there. Yeah, but it was not, there was like no fridge because you couldn't eat on the dorm, so I had to eat out. The bathrooms the showers were like okay, but the toilet section, and in France a lot of times it's separated. You have the WC, or it's called the water closet, and you have the shower area, and you have the shower. So a lot of apartments or buildings in France have the bathroom kind of like split in two. So the shower area was okay, but the WC was not. It was like an Asian toilet, so not like a Western toilet where it sits. It's like a hole in the ground. It was nice, it had is it porcelain? I don't know. Anyways, but that's what it was, and I was like, it was a squat toilet, so I had to like squat down for the first month and a half. That was my life, and then after that, things I got more time, of course, to like travel and to search for better appointments. I just needed a squat flat. It was a squat toilet. That's what that was my first entrance. Can you imagine? And you had this stereotype of, in France, you go into developed country, and so we have this like certain idea, and France is for many people it's romantic Paris and walks along the Seine and street lights and all those things. Jan, why was there a squat pot in France? So in the south of France, also because of their tradition, their old culture, historical culture is Occitan and Catalan. They also have it's not super common everywhere, but you can go to places and the toilet area is a squat toilet. Yeah. So I've been to like bars in France, and the toilet is a squat toilet. And actually, I quite prefer the squat toilet for certain things. So like, for example, in public restrooms, like it's not like I'm gonna sit on the toilet seat anyway. So it's okay for me to squat down. Like I don't have a problem. I feel like I don't need to touch anything when it is a squat toilet. You have the pedestals that you put your foot on, so you put your foot and you squat down, and that's it. I would have done like a similar thing if I had like the Western toilets that we're accustomed to. So I don't have like huge, oh my god, preferences. I mean, the smell, sometimes you really have to. But other than that, it don't matter to me. But I wouldn't want that in my house. So that was the challenge of having that in my house, in the dorm where I was staying. We're gonna wrap up soon for your questions. What are some of the exactly, Candice? It's better to squat in order to pee and poop. Science already proves this. So, what are some of the other challenges that I had moving to France? So So one of the things that I had moving, one of the challenges that I also had moving to France, outside of moving and trying to sort out my homelessness, was dealing with the language. So earlier I did tell you that I studied French from first form to fifth form, right? I also took a semester in French at university, and I also even participated in a French play. It was all French. That was exciting. It was all French, and I had to like convey emotions in French. Trying to convey emotions in a foreign language is a lot more work. Like, you get really tired and you're just like, I'm just trying to be funny, I'm just trying to be sad, why am I so tired? You get exhausted because you have to do a lot of mental work. Anyway, so I felt somewhat comfortable with French, or so I thought. So when I moved to Toulouse, which is the south of France, right? And one of the things with Toulouse, which I did not know, is of course they have their own accent. And which I told you, they have a historical culture of, at first, before they started speaking French, they would speak a language called Occitan, which is close to Catalan. And that whole region was quite Occitan, so they have like a particular accent. So it's like somebody who doesn't really speak, who learns English, moving to rural Jamaica, or like a rural town in wherever you are, whichever country you live in. So I was like, what are you saying? What's going on? And so let me give you an example. An easy one is, you would say you'd say I'm from Toulouse, right? And it would be je suis toulousain if you're a man, but let's just use that one. Je suis toulousain, I'm from Toulouse. Instead of je suis toulousain, I would hear je suis toulousain. And yeah, je suis toulousain, je suis toulousain. I was like, what's going on? So for the first 3 to 6 months, I was completely like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old trying to figure out language, and I had to get bank accounts, I had to get a phone, I had to figure out utilities, I had to converse with my landlords, all the things, right? And I have like this, I'm hearing this accent of where that was a little bit traumatizing. Yeah. What's another thing that I found? One more thing that I would say about moving to France, another thing that I encountered was just the shock of your stereotypes or what you thought in your head meeting reality. It's mind-blowing, So like, for example, I thought the language challenge, I thought, things would move really, really fast, but literally everything in France takes 3 weeks to 3 months. Like, that's just it. If you go to the post office, combien de temps? C'est 3 semaines, and they're like, how much time does it take, when I'm gonna get a response or whatever, 3 weeks. It's the language, it's bureaucracy, it's just, you think like this developed place, it's the squat toilets, meeting squat toilets in a first world country. You're not expecting these things because of what you have in your mind and in the media of all the things that, you see, and you're just like, oh wow, it's not like this. So, when you're traveling, don't trust the media. Should I say this? So listen to the media, but don't follow it like to the T. The media is just like one perspective, is what I'm saying. What you see on TV, what you see, it's just one perspective of what you're gonna experience when you move abroad, right? Yeah. So that's, everybody's like joining really late, but that was my first month or so moving abroad to France. Does anybody have any questions, or do you want to? You can join the live chat just let me know so that we can, I'll tell you some questions, answer your questions, or if you have a story. Has anybody moved abroad before? What challenges they had? Hop on the live, let me know. Just let me know. You can request a chat. I don't know, is Jan still there? Jan, do you want to share your experience moving? Because you lived abroad. You do live abroad right now, but you lived abroad. Do you want to say anything? Now we can also have our final conversation that we're supposed to have. I'm gonna. In France, Candice, I lived in France for 5.5 years. 5.5 years. Jan, I sent you a thing. Make yourself. Yeah!
You know that I'm. Hi.
Guys, so Jan is also like my university roommate. Oh God, we're not gonna tell those stories. We are not telling the roommate stories. Oh no.
We'll see.
But okay, so Jan, you moved to Australia. How was that? You had similar language, but
Wait,
what was that different like? How was that? How was your move to Australia? Where you gone? Why she close this thing? She always do this, you know, she's not like Jan, I must expose your lack of technology skills.
Yes. Oh look, I have on my. Do I have my UQ jacket?
Oh, look! Oh my God! All right, so sorry guys, this is also like a mini reunion. We're supposed to meet up in New York,
Yeah.
but I got stuck because of COVID quarantine. So this is also a mini reunion.
Is that Candice the one I always used to be jealous about? Is that her?
Oh God, no.
Oh.
Stop it. This is a live. Stop it. So Jan actually is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I met her in university at UWI, and she ended up moving to Australia after. So she had already done St. Vincent to Jamaica, and then after that she went back home, blah blah blah, and she moved to Australia. So tell me what it was like moving to Jamaica. Maybe that's interesting. Moving to Jamaica.
I'm gonna give my
We have a
Long
Jamaica.
Island in Jamaica story.
Wait, hold on. Guys, do you want to hear about her moving to Australia or
Or
moving
New
to Jamaica?
York now.
Nah, we won't do New York.
Quarantine, that doesn't interest you.
Nah, we're not doing. I'm mad at New York right now.
Aren't we all?
They don't care. Okay, let's just do a quick. What was it like for
Jamaica?
moving to Jamaica? Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny because I think the idea that we have is that everything is like it's a Caribbean island and we're all in the Caribbean and it's all the same. Candy says Aussie, so I'll do Aussie.
No, start with Jamaica first. Just quick, and then we run into Aussie.
Okay, fine. But like, yeah, it was different actually because the culture is different. Since you know we're much smaller, as everybody knows, but it's interesting because I think you see like Jamaican culture from outside and people tend to, you know, in the Caribbean it's kind of like we all kind of own each other's culture in a way. We all kind of, you know, adopt each other, and then we can go out and be like, even if you're from one island, you claim the other. But you don't really understand Jamaican culture until you live in Jamaica and realize that. So it was really interesting. It was so much fun. Learned.
I would say that Jan would always talk about how Jamaicans were one book of color clothes. This is apparently a quite Jamaican stereotype.
Yeah,
it is. I also met people because my clothes are colorful when they're abroad, so maybe it's true.
But like
And,
you guys like you're very fashionable, but then it's like a lot of what we would consider clashing, but y'all rock it. Y'all are like
yellow shirt with a red pants.
and like, you know,
We don't care.
confident.
Yeah.
Out of the world. And I'm just like, okay.
Right. Let's hop into.
Remember, I think the one that I had, so language was, because I feel like we all have little slangs, but like Jamaican slangs meant the opposite of what I thought.
Oh yeah, hush. Oh God,
Hush.
Dan was mad at me for weeks because I would tell her hush, and I would not know because she thought hush. I was telling her to shut up. Poor me trying to console this girl because she having challenges or whatever, and I was like, oh hush, and she would. I would also be confused, like, why am I getting this reaction? So finally,
I was offended about something, and you tell me shut up, and I'm like, but how is that? Like, I don't understand.
because in the rest of the Caribbean, apparently, I feel like Jamaica is the only one that does this. In the rest of the Caribbean, hush means that the actual word hush is silent.
Yeah.
To shut up.
Be silent.
And in Jamaica, it's a consolation. We're trying to console the person, like, oh, hush, little baby, I'm sorry and stuff. And finally, that's fine. That's actually when we started getting close. Yeah. Was when we finally cleared up that misunderstanding of, no, I'm not telling you to shut up. And they're like, oh. And that's when we finally actually started. That's like, that shifted our relationship. And we started like becoming that more friends. Okay, now we're talking about Aussie.
So and then there was the bulla cake, which was the one that Jamaicans say that we don't say.
We love bulla, and bulla is man to man. Yeah, it's homosexual sex. Well, man to man, really. It's not even the lesbian one. So bulla, you don't really say that in the rest of the Caribbean.
It means
we love bulla. It's nice.
No, we say it, but it means what people say it, not me. But it means something completely different.
Yeah, and every day we're talking about, because every Jamaican's childhood involved bulla. Whether you like it or not, bulla and pear, bulla. And so this Vincy girl was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was like,
y'all be having a lot
walking around. Like, why were all the men walking around so loud? It was very confusing. Especially in light of the music. It was just like complete disconnect for about a couple days.
All right, so Aussie, we did Jamaica. What was like your first month in Aussie, or what were like some of the things that jumped out at you when you moved to Australia? So
Australia is like a different world in a way. I know it's like a different part of the world, but it's very much like a different world. It's interesting because I was talking to my Aussie friend last week, and I was saying to her, that's one thing I thought was very interesting about them, that I don't know, I started even ask her. I was teasing her because I was like, maybe from your penal colony background, but like they're very into rules, or not even rules. Like, you would not think it's a very open culture in one way. Like, it's very outdoorsy. Everyone's very chill, especially because I lived in Queensland.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't eat bills though. I lived in Queensland, so that was like the state that was very kind of, it's where the Great Barrier Reef is. It's the Gold Coast, so everyone's like surfing, and people walk around with no shoes. If you have seen the Hemsworth brothers, that's where they're from, and it's very true. They're walking around with like no shoes to the supermarket, on the street, everything. It's very much beach culture, and it's very much like chill. Like the area where they're from is known for smoking weed, and they think they have the best weed in the world. So we can fight about that, but I'm just like, okay. And with Australia, it's like, so there were three things. First, I would say, when I first went, you have to understand, they consider themselves open, but it's a very polite kind of reserved version of open.
The passive aggression, oh God, I did not talk about the passive aggression. Jamaicans and Caribbean people are so direct. Anyway.
No, it's a real thing, because we had initiation. So we had to have, and when I was doing my master's, and they had a special course not a course, but like an introductory course at my university for people from the Caribbean and Latin America, where they explained to us the differences that we cannot do there. They were like, if somebody invites you to their house for like a housewarming or an event, they're inviting you, not you and your friends. And we were like, oh. And they were like, also, it is common culture to bring something, so you don't show up to eat.
Jamaica, I actually adopted that from France. This is something that I came back home with. Like, I generally actually bring a gift when I go to houses. But Jamaica gonna show up, what a fool, come feed me, give me everything.
So they explained this because it was funny, because there was a guy from Peru, and he was laughing because he went to an event like the night before, and he said he went, and they said bring a dish, and so he walked with his bowl. Because he bowl for him to put food in.
Oh God!
you bring something. And so that was funny. And then they were like, oh, and also it's not considered polite to describe people by
their physical characteristics.
And so they were like, no, that's not a thing. Like you don't make a nickname or you don't describe the person. So we were like, but if somebody asked you, like, oh,
Blackie, red blouse, pinky.
Yeah. So I always say like Australia is like a mix of like Europe, but America. They consider it's like they have this view about Americans as being very thing. And Australians, one thing I will give them, they tend to be more they're very adventurous traveling, and they tend to know quite a bit about the rest of the world. They're big on like gap year and traveling and stuff. But
it's always those cultural clashes, and you're just like, I didn't know. It's always like the minor, little mundane things that shock you.
Yeah,
that you never thought. Oh, guys, have 30 seconds remaining on live where I can save it. So Janielle, thanks for talking. We're gonna cut you off now. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Ciao.
Love you.
Okay, guys. So it's like I said, it's always those cultural clashes that really shock you. And I only have 7 seconds. So I'm gonna say thanks so much for joining the live. And next week we're gonna be talking about the weirdest foods that I've eaten so far. So see you next week, next Wednesday on IG Live. Yeah, for Stories from Wonderland.